Welcome to our deep dive into Canadian immigration.
Okay.
You've given us quite a collection of material this time around.
Yeah.
Academic papers, personal study notes, and even some video content from Mr. Philipplik.
He makes good videos.
Yeah, definitely. Before we really get started, I'd love for you to consider something.
Okay.
How far back can you trace your own family's arrival in Canada?
A good question to start with.
Yeah, it's a question that might spark some personal reflection as we navigate this complex topic.
It really highlights that the idea of Canadian identity is so deeply intertwined with immigration.
That's true.
Even the First Nations, who predate all other arrivals, even they have their own intricate migration narratives in their history.
Yeah, it's true. To really grasp how Canada approaches immigration today, we need to understand where it all began.
Right.
And from what I've gathered from your sources, early Canadian immigration policies were pretty eye-opening. It's hard to believe there was a time when Canada actively sought out British immigrants while simultaneously enacting laws to restrict those from Asia.
It definitely paints a stark contrast to the multiculturalism Canada embraces today.
Yeah.
Policies like the Chinese head tax and the continuous journey rule for Indians were really rooted in this desire to maintain a specific demographic makeup.
It's pretty incredible.
And unfortunately, discrimination was at the heart of it.
Yeah, and a particularly poignant example of this discrimination was the Komagata Maru incident in 1914.
Oh, yeah.
Here was a ship filled with passengers from India, all hoping for a better life in Canada, yet they were denied entry simply because they didn't meet the ridiculous continuous journey rule.
It's hard to believe.
It really makes you think about the human cost of these policies.
The Komagata Maru is a powerful symbol of the injustices of the past.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Canada has taken steps to acknowledge this.
Right?
It wasn't until much later that the government formally apologized for those discriminatory acts and offered reparations.
Okay, so what were the turning points? When did Canada begin to shift towards a more inclusive approach to immigration?
There wasn't one single aha moment.
Okay.
It was a gradual evolution influenced by a convergence of factors.
Like what?
Societal values underwent a transformation, driven in part by the atrocities of World War II,
Oh, yeah.
and a burgeoning global movement for human rights.
Makes sense.
On the economic front, post-war growth demanded a larger workforce, and immigration was seen as a way to address that need.
I see.
And critically, the adoption of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in 1982 fundamentally altered the legal landscape, enshrining principles of equality and prohibiting discrimination.
The Charter was undeniably a game changer.
Huge.
So how did all these historical shifts shape the immigration framework Canada operates under today?
That's where the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act of 2002 comes in. It's the cornerstone of modern Canadian immigration policy, outlining the four main categories of immigrants Canada accepts: economic, family class, refugees, and other.
Economic immigrants, I assume, are those who come to contribute to Canada's economy.
Exactly. They're skilled workers, entrepreneurs, business people, the folks that come to bolster Canada's economic engine.
Got it.
In fact, they make up the largest group of immigrants.
And family class would be for those looking to reunite with loved ones already in Canada.
Precisely.
Okay.
It encompasses spouses, partners, children, parents, and even grandparents of Canadian residents.
Then there's the refugee category, providing a haven for those fleeing persecution or danger.
Right.
And other would be a catch-all for unique or exceptional circumstances, I imagine.
You got it.
Okay.
The Act is designed with flexibility and compassion in mind,
Yeah.
recognizing that not every situation fits neatly into a predefined box.
It makes sense.
What's important to understand is that the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act isn't just about numbers. It strives to strike a balance between reaping economic benefits and considering the social and cultural implications. There's a strong emphasis on integration, ensuring that newcomers can successfully build a life in Canada.
That makes sense.
It's not just about letting people in,
Right.
it's about setting them up for success.
But how does Canada actually decide who gets to immigrate? From what I've seen in your sources, it's a pretty intricate process.
Yes, the selection process.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating aspect of Canadian immigration, and one that has undergone significant changes over time.
Mr. Philipplik's videos were particularly enlightening on this topic.
Yeah, they are good.
It's incredible how much the selection system has transformed over the years.
It really has. For decades, the point system reigned supreme.
Okay.
It was introduced in 1967 and aimed to be a fair and objective way to assess potential immigrants.
So essentially you earned points
Yeah.
based on things like your education, language proficiency, and work experience.
Right.
Almost like a giant immigration scorecard.
Exactly.
Right.
The intention was to make the process quantifiable and, at least in theory, fair.
However, I imagine even the point system wasn't without its drawbacks.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
One major limitation was the first-come, first-served principle, which created massive backlogs and didn't always align with the evolving needs of the Canadian economy.
I see.
The system needed a revamp to be more responsive and target skills that were in high demand.
And that's where Express Entry comes in, right?
Okay.
It completely changed the game in 2015.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Express Entry ushered in a much faster, more dynamic system designed for the digital age. While factors like education and work experience are still considered, the first-come, first-served model was abandoned.
Right.
The focus shifted to attracting highly skilled workers deemed most likely to thrive and contribute to Canada's economic growth.
It seems like a smart approach to ensure the system is aligned with Canada's current economic needs.
It is.
You know, reading about all these changes made me think about Mr. Philip Dick's story about his father arriving as a refugee in 1965.
Oh, right.
It's a good reminder that every individual has their own unique immigration story, and that the system has had to adapt to a changing world.
These personal stories add such a powerful dimension to our understanding of immigration.
Yeah, definitely.
They ground the policies and systems in real human experiences, reminding us that they impact real lives.
It makes me wonder, what stories does your family hold?
Yeah.
What journeys brought them to Canada? I bet there are some fascinating tales of resilience, hardship, and opportunity woven into your family history.
Oh, for sure.
But let's shift gears a bit and delve into the forces shaping immigration policy today.
Okay.
What's driving Canada's choices now?
Well, it's impossible to discuss Canadian immigration without considering the economic landscape.
Economics plays a huge role, for sure.
No.
But can we unpack that a bit?
Yeah.
What are the key economic factors influencing immigration policy?
Consider this. Canada is grappling with an aging population and a declining birth rate. This translates to fewer people entering the workforce, putting a strain on economic growth and social programs.
Right.
Immigration is often seen as a solution to address these challenges.
So bringing in more people.
Exactly. It's a way to bolster the workforce and ensure continued economic prosperity.
So Canada isn't just looking for any workers.
Right.
They're seeking individuals with specific skills and qualifications to address targeted needs.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's an increasing emphasis on attracting highly skilled workers who can drive innovation and contribute to specific sectors experiencing growth.
Like in Alberta, for example.
Yes.
Your sources highlight the impact of the oil sands boom and the demand for workers to support that industry.
Yeah.
It seems like specific economic booms can have a significant effect on regional immigration needs.
Absolutely. You see this fascinating interplay between national immigration policy and regional demands.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, is it?
Not at all.
Okay.
But economics isn't the only driving force. Politics also plays a huge role in shaping immigration policy, and it can get a bit messy.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Political considerations can often complicate things.
They do.
Can you elaborate on how politics influences immigration decisions?
Think about the heightened security concerns following 9/11.
Okay.
That led to much stricter admissibility rules and a greater focus on security screening.
Right.
Then you have international agreements on refugee protection, which Canada is obligated to uphold.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the constant balancing act of attracting skilled workers while also addressing the needs of existing Canadians, including Indigenous communities.
It sounds like a delicate balancing act, with all these competing interests pulling in different directions.
It is.
But it's important to consider all these perspectives, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then you have to factor in the provinces themselves, each with their unique needs and priorities.
Yeah.
Immigration isn't just dictated by the federal government.
Okay.
Provinces have a say too.
That's interesting. So provinces actually have some control over who they want to attract.
They do.
How does that work?
Through the provincial nomination program, provinces have the power to nominate individuals for permanent residency based on the specific needs of their local economies.
So, for example, if a province is facing a shortage of nurses, they can target immigrants with nursing qualifications.
Exactly.
Oh.
Alberta, with its historically strong energy and construction sectors, has often focused on attracting workers in those fields.
Right.
It makes you wonder how these provincial priorities might impact job opportunities in the landscape of various industries across Canada.
It's certainly something to consider.
Yeah.
But this provincial influence isn't always just about economics, is it?
No.
Quebec, with its unique language and culture, presents a distinct approach to immigration.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Quebec operates under a special agreement with the federal government, the Canada-Quebec Accord.
Okay.
This recognizes Quebec's distinct character and grants them greater control over their immigration selection process.
So while other provinces might focus on attracting highly skilled tech workers, for example, Quebec's priority is preserving its French language and culture.
Precisely.
Right.
They have a vested interest in attracting French-speaking immigrants to maintain their cultural identity.
Makes sense.
Their immigration office in Damascus, Syria, is a testament to this commitment.
Wow.
Imagine the fascinating contributions immigrants from the Middle East can make to French-Canadian identity.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It really highlights the complex interplay between immigration and cultural preservation.
It's truly a multifaceted issue, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
I agree.
We've explored the historical context, the legislation that governs immigration, and the economic and political forces at play.
Right.
But no discussion about immigration would be complete without addressing the concept of rights, both individual and collective.
Yeah.
This is where things get particularly nuanced, and we see the intersection of personal experiences with broader policy decisions.
You've hit the nail on the head. The issue of rights is central to so many debates surrounding immigration.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have individual rights enshrined in the Charter, which apply to everyone in Canada, regardless of their citizenship status.
So even newcomers, who may not yet be citizens, are protected by those fundamental freedoms and guarantees.
Absolutely.
Okay.
These rights are a cornerstone of Canadian society and apply to everyone within its borders.
Right.
However, running parallel to these individual rights are the collective rights of groups like Indigenous communities. They have a unique relationship with the Canadian state, one rooted in treaties and historical agreements.
And sometimes these collective rights intersect with immigration policies in a way that creates tension and sparks difficult conversations.
You're right.
Yeah.
One case that exemplifies this dynamic is the landmark Singh decision of 1985, which dealt with refugee rights.
Yes, the Singh decision.
Yes.
This is where the conversation around refugee rights really comes into focus.
Right.
Can you tell us a bit more about that case and its implications?
The Supreme Court ruled in the Singh case that denying refugee claimants an oral hearing violated their charter right to security of the person.
Ooh, wow.
This was a monumental win for refugee rights and forced Canada to overhaul its refugee determination system, ensuring greater fairness and due process.
It must have been a pivotal moment for refugee rights in Canada.
It was.
But I imagine a decision of that magnitude also sparked some controversy.
Of course, it ignited a debate about balancing the protection of vulnerable individuals with the management of resources.
Okay.
Some argued that providing support for asylum seekers placed undue burdens on taxpayers, while others maintained that offering refuge to those fleeing persecution was a moral imperative for Canada.
Yeah, it's tough.
This raises an important question for you to consider.
Okay.
How do you feel about Canada's role in providing refuge?
It's a big question.
Where do you stand on that complex issue?
That's a question worthy of careful consideration.
It is.
It's not a simple yes or no answer, is it?
Not at all. And then you have the concerns raised by the Assembly of First Nations, advocating for a more comprehensive approach to immigration.
Okay.
They argue that the government should prioritize addressing the socioeconomic challenges faced by Indigenous communities before focusing on large-scale immigration.
Their perspective brings another important layer to the conversation, doesn't it?
It does.
It highlights the need to consider the well-being of all Canadians, not just newcomers.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It's about ensuring that everyone benefits from Canada's prosperity and that resources are distributed equitably.
Right.
But it's not just about economics.
Yeah.
There are cultural considerations as well.
Okay.
How do we integrate newcomers while respecting the rights and traditions of Indigenous peoples?
Right.
It's a complex puzzle with many pieces to consider.
It seems like navigating the complexities of immigration requires a delicate balance.
It does.
How do we reconcile these competing interests? How do we ensure that immigration policies are fair and sustainable, benefiting both individuals and the country as a whole?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
And it's one that requires careful consideration of historical context, economic realities, and the diverse perspectives of all Canadians.
Right.
It's a challenging but crucial conversation to have if we want to shape a future where immigration truly benefits everyone.
You've given us a lot to think about already,
We have.
and I'm sure there's much more to uncover.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take a moment to process all this information and then dive back in to explore even more facets of this fascinating topic.
Sounds good. It's important to clarify that the Assembly of First Nations isn't advocating for a complete halt to immigration.
Okay.
Their message is centered on the need to address existing inequalities first.
Right.
They're urging the government to ensure all Canadians, especially those in Indigenous communities, have a fair shot at prosperity before expanding immigration targets.
It's about leveling the playing field and making sure the benefits of immigration are shared equitably right.
Exactly.
Not just for newcomers, but for those who have called Canada home for generations.
It's about fostering an environment where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just economics.
Right.
There are important cultural considerations as well.
Okay.
The question becomes, how do we integrate newcomers while simultaneously upholding the rights and traditions of Indigenous peoples?
It's a tough question.
Finding that balance is crucial.
Speaking of balance, our sources also touch on the unique challenges faced by Francophone communities outside of Quebec.
Right.
It seems they're navigating their own set of complexities within the broader immigration landscape.
It's a fascinating dynamic.
Yeah.
While Canada as a whole is becoming increasingly diverse, Francophone communities outside of Quebec are striving to preserve their linguistic and cultural identity. This often means attracting French-speaking immigrants to bolster their numbers and maintain their vibrant culture.
I recall Mr. Philipplik mentioning a trend of immigrants gravitating towards urban centers.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense.
It does.
Cities often offer more opportunities, a more diverse social fabric, and perhaps a greater sense of belonging for newcomers.
You're right. Urban centers do tend to be magnets for immigrants.
Yeah.
But this concentration of newcomers in cities also presents its own set of challenges.
Like what?
Rapid population growth puts a strain on infrastructure and resources. Cities need to find ways to provide adequate housing, healthcare, and education for a growing and diverse population.
Makes sense.
And then there's the social aspect.
Right.
How do you foster a sense of community and inclusion when you have so many people from different backgrounds coming together?
It's almost like a giant social experiment unfolding in real time, with real consequences for people's lives.
It is, yeah.
It makes you realize that immigration isn't just about numbers and policies.
Right.
It's about people, their hopes and dreams, their struggles, and the unique contributions they bring to the tapestry of Canadian society.
You've perfectly captured the essence of it.
Thanks.
Immigration is a deeply human story. And when you step back and look at the big picture, you realize just how intricately woven it is into the fabric of Canadian society, from the economy to politics, culture, and identity.
Absolutely.
It's messy,
It is.
it's complex, and there are no easy answers.
Which is probably why it's a topic that continues to spark debate and discussion.
Right.
It forces us to confront some fundamental questions about who we are as a nation and what values we prioritize.
Yeah.
What kind of future are we building, both for ourselves and for generations to come?
It's a mirror reflecting back on us, revealing both our strengths and our areas for growth.
Yeah.
And perhaps through honest reflection and open dialogue, we can find the wisdom to create a more just and equitable Canada for everyone.
These are definitely some profound ideas to unpack.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, I want to bring it back to you, the listener, for a moment.
Okay.
Given what we've explored so far, what are your initial thoughts? What role do you think immigration should play in shaping Canada's future?
Remember, there's no right or wrong answer here.
Right.
It's about grappling with the complexity, considering diverse perspectives, and forming your own informed opinion.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what values resonate most deeply with you?
Yeah.
What kind of Canada do you envision for yourself, your children, and future generations?
Those are powerful questions worth pondering.
They are.
But exploring those big questions might be a bit much to digest all at once.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back and delve into another layer of this multifaceted issue.
Okay.
The impact of immigration on certain demographics and the challenges specific groups face in navigating this complex system.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Focusing on specific groups allows us to see how the broader themes of immigration play out in different contexts, revealing nuances and challenges that might otherwise be overlooked.
For example, our sources mention the unique experiences of female immigrants.
Right.
They often face a double disadvantage.
Yeah.
Not only are they adjusting to a new country and culture, but they're also navigating systemic gender inequalities that can impact their access to employment, education, and social support.
It's an important point to raise.
Yeah.
Research shows that female immigrants often face higher rates of unemployment and underemployment compared to their male counterparts,
Wow.
even when they have similar levels of education and experience.
That's surprising.
This disparity can be attributed to various factors, including gender bias in hiring practices, a lack of affordable childcare options, and difficulties in having foreign credentials recognized.
I see.
It highlights the intersectionality of immigration,
Okay.
how factors like gender, race, and socioeconomic status can create unique barriers for certain groups.
And it's not just about economic challenges.
Right.
Female immigrants also face cultural barriers.
Of course.
They might come from societies with different gender roles and expectations.
Yeah.
And navigating these cultural differences can be a daunting task.
It is.
Imagine trying to find your place in a new society while also challenging traditional gender norms.
Right.
It's a complex and often overlooked aspect of the immigrant experience.
It is.
It's a reminder that the conversation around immigration needs to be nuanced and inclusive.
It does.
We need to acknowledge the diverse experiences of newcomers and ensure that our policies and support systems are tailored to meet their specific needs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One-size-fits-all approaches simply won't work when it comes to something as complex as immigration.
Our sources also touch on the challenges faced by LGBTQ+ immigrants.
Right.
They often arrive from countries where their sexual orientation or gender identity is criminalized or heavily stigmatized.
Yeah.
Coming to Canada can be a liberating experience for them, offering a chance to live openly and authentically.
For sure.
But even here, they might encounter discrimination or struggle to access culturally sensitive services.
It's a heartbreaking reality.
Yeah.
LGBTQ+ immigrants may face unique hurdles when it comes to things like finding housing, healthcare, or employment.
Right.
They might also be hesitant to report hate crimes or discrimination for fear of being deported or facing further marginalization.
It's a stark reminder that even in a country like Canada, which prides itself on its inclusivity, there's still work to be done to ensure that all newcomers, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity, feel safe, welcomed, and supported.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
And this brings us to another critical aspect of the immigration conversation.
Okay.
The role of public perception and the impact of media narratives.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
The way immigration is portrayed in the media can significantly influence public opinion and shape the political discourse surrounding this issue.
You see it all the time.
Yeah.
Media coverage of immigration often focuses on sensationalized stories, emphasizing negative aspects like crime, social welfare abuse, or the strain on public resources. This can create fear and resentment towards immigrants, fueling anti-immigrant sentiment and influencing policy decisions.
It's a dangerous cycle.
It is.
Negative media narratives can create a climate of intolerance,
Yeah.
making it even more challenging for immigrants to integrate and feel a sense of belonging in their new home.
It's crucial to be critical consumers of media and to challenge narratives that perpetuate harmful stereotypes about immigrants.
Right.
It's important to remember that immigrants are individuals with unique stories, aspirations, and contributions to make.
Yeah.
Painting them with a broad brush based on negative stereotypes is not only inaccurate, but also deeply unjust.
It's a call to action for all of us to be more mindful of the language we use and the narratives we promote.
Definitely.
The stories we tell about immigration have real-world consequences, shaping the experiences of newcomers and influencing the kind of society we build.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
We need to shift the narrative away from fear and division and towards one that recognizes the shared humanity of all people, regardless of their place of birth or immigration status.
Seems like one of the biggest challenges in discussing immigration is overcoming these preconceived notions and seeing beyond the stereotypes. It's about recognizing the individual within the broader narrative.
Absolutely. Each immigrant has their own unique story, their own reasons for coming to Canada, their own hopes and dreams for the future.
Right.
It's easy to get lost in the abstract discussions of policies and statistics, but we must never lose sight of the human faces behind these issues.
You're right. The personal stories are what make this topic so compelling.
Yeah.
They remind us that immigration isn't just an abstract concept.
Right.
It's about real people navigating complex systems, overcoming challenges, and building new lives for themselves and their families.
And those stories often reveal incredible resilience, courage, and determination.
For sure.
Immigrants often leave behind everything familiar to pursue a better life,
Yeah.
facing uncertainty and adversity with remarkable strength.
It's pretty incredible.
Their stories deserve to be heard and honored.
Their contributions to Canadian society are undeniable, aren't they?
They are.
Immigrants enrich our culture, drive innovation, and make Canada a more vibrant and diverse nation.
Absolutely. And it's not just about economic contributions.
Right.
Immigrants bring new ideas, perspectives, and experiences that broaden our understanding of the world and challenge us to grow as a society.
It sounds like we've come full circle.
I think so.
We started by acknowledging that the very essence of Canadian identity is intertwined with immigration, and now we're seeing how immigrants continue to shape and redefine what it means to be Canadian.
It's an ongoing evolution, a dynamic interplay between those who have called Canada home for generations and those who are just beginning their journey here.
Yeah.
And it's this very dynamism that makes Canada such a unique and fascinating place.
It's clear that immigration is a multifaceted issue with far-reaching implications.
It is.
We've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah.
From the economic impacts and political debates to the social and cultural shifts, immigration touches on virtually every aspect of Canadian life.
It does.
It's a conversation that requires nuance, empathy, and a willingness to engage with diverse perspectives.
You've summed it up perfectly.
Thanks.
It's a conversation that demands our attention, our critical thinking, and our compassion.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that will continue to shape the future of Canada for generations to come.
We've explored the challenges, the triumphs, and the ever-evolving nature of Canadian immigration.
We have.
But as we delve deeper into this complex topic, there's one crucial element we can't overlook:
Okay.
the future.
Right.
What lies ahead for Canadian immigration? What trends are shaping the landscape? And what challenges and opportunities await?
Good questions.
Let's take a moment to gather our thoughts and then dive into the future of this ever-evolving narrative. Okay, we've really journeyed through the intricate layers of Canadian immigration, haven't we? From those early policies that seem so out of place today, all the way to the current debates about balancing economic needs with social impacts.
What strikes me is how, even with all this information we've unpacked, the story of Canadian immigration isn't finished yet. It's like a book with new chapters constantly being written, responding to a world that never sits still.
And that's what makes it so captivating, right? It's not just a historical account. It's this living, breathing narrative woven from the experiences of countless individuals.
And you, dear listener, are a part of that tapestry. Whether you're a newcomer yourself or your family has been here for generations, your story is intertwined with this larger narrative of Canadian immigration.
So let's talk about the future. What trends are shaping the landscape of Canadian immigration?
One major factor is globalization. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, we're seeing greater mobility of people, ideas, and capital. This means that Canada is competing on a global stage to attract and retain top talent.
So it's not just about selecting immigrants. It's about creating an environment where they choose to stay and build their lives here.
Exactly. Canada needs to offer competitive advantages, like strong social programs, a welcoming culture, and pathways to citizenship to attract and retain global talent.
Another trend our sources highlight is the increasing importance of technology.
Oh, yeah.
It's transforming how people migrate, how they connect with others, and how they integrate into new societies.
Think about it. Online platforms are making it easier for people to find information about immigration programs, connect with potential employers, and build communities with others who share their language or culture.
It's almost like technology is breaking down some of the traditional barriers to immigration.
In some ways, yes. But it also creates new challenges. Governments need to adapt their policies and systems to keep pace with these technological advancements. For example, they need to find ways to verify online credentials, combat online misinformation about immigration, and ensure that digital tools are accessible to everyone, including those with limited digital literacy.
It's like a constant game of catch-up, isn't it? As soon as you solve one challenge, another one pops up.
Hmm.
But amidst all this change, there are some perennial challenges that Canada has been grappling with for decades. Like, what about the issue of integration?
Integration remains a key focus, and rightfully so. It's about ensuring that newcomers have the support they need to thrive in Canada, to learn the language, find decent work, access healthcare and education, and feel a sense of belonging in their communities.
But it's a two-way street, isn't it? It's not just about immigrants adapting to Canadian society. It's also about Canadian society adapting to its growing diversity.
You're absolutely right. It's about fostering a sense of mutual respect and understanding, recognizing that diversity is a strength, not a weakness.
And what about the economic impact of immigration? It's a topic that often sparks heated debate.
The economic impact is complex and multifaceted. On the one hand, immigration can boost economic growth by filling labor shortages, stimulating innovation, and increasing consumer demand.
But there are also concerns about the potential downsides, right? like competition for jobs and downward pressure on wages.
Those concerns are often overblown. Studies have consistently shown that immigration has a net positive impact on the Canadian economy. Immigrants create jobs, pay taxes, and contribute to the social safety net.
But I imagine the impact can vary depending on the skill level of the immigrants, right?
That's true. Highly skilled immigrants tend to integrate more quickly into the labor market and earn higher wages, contributing significantly to economic growth. But even lower skilled immigrants play a vital role in filling labor gaps in sectors like agriculture, construction, and hospitality.
It's a reminder that the economic impact of immigration can't be reduced to simple equations. It's about people, their skills, their aspirations, and the opportunities available to them.
Exactly. And it's about creating policies that maximize the benefits of immigration for both newcomers and Canadian society as a whole.
So as we look to the future, what are some key questions that Canada needs to address in terms of its immigration policies?
One pressing issue is how to manage the increasing demand for immigration. Canada's aging population and low birth rate mean that immigration will continue to be crucial for economic growth and sustaining social programs. But how many immigrants should Canada welcome each year, and how should those immigrants be selected?
It's a balancing act, isn't it? You want to ensure that immigration benefits Canada while also considering the capacity of communities to integrate newcomers and provide them with the support they need.
Absolutely. Another challenge is ensuring that Canada's immigration system is fair, efficient, and responsive to the evolving needs of the economy. This means streamlining application processes, reducing backlogs, and creating pathways for temporary residents to transition to permanent residency.
And of course, we can't forget about the ethical considerations, right? How do we ensure that Canada's immigration policies uphold human rights and protect the most vulnerable, like refugees and asylum seekers?
That's a fundamental question. Canada has a proud tradition of welcoming refugees and offering them protection. But as global displacement reaches unprecedented levels, Canada needs to find ways to balance its humanitarian obligations with the need to manage its borders effectively and ensure the safety and security of all Canadians.
It's clear that there are no easy answers when it comes to immigration. It's a complex issue with competing interests, values, and perspectives. But one thing is for sure, immigration will continue to shape the future of Canada in profound ways.
And it's a future that we all have a stake in shaping. As citizens, it's our responsibility to engage in informed and respectful discussions about immigration, to challenge harmful stereotypes, and to advocate for policies that reflect our values of compassion, fairness, and inclusivity.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring the past, present, and future of Canadian immigration. We covered a lot of ground, but this is just the beginning of your own personal deep dive into this ever-evolving topic.
As you continue your exploration, remember to stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. Your voice matters, and your perspectives contribute to shaping a more just and equitable future for all Canadians.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've gained a deeper understanding of the complexities and nuances of Canadian immigration and a renewed sense of curiosity about this ever-unfolding narrative. Until next time, keep exploring.